Go Big Red Indeed, No Block, No Rock, Season 2, Episode 37. Coming at you live once again from the Nebraska Brewing Company tap room in La Vista, Nebraska, 108th and Harrison. I am sipping on what is called the Cozy Cold IPA. Now, this is a whole new thing that's on tap, so I don't even really know what's, necessarily cozy about it. Connor mentioned it. He explained it. So you come to the tap room, and he'll explain it for you. It's really good. Mike, what are your thoughts on this Cozy Cold IPA?
Well, once again, not a huge IPA guy, but this is one that I'm actually enjoying. We started with the Shake and Bake, which is I called the Training Bra IPA. Kind of got you started on IPAs a little bit. And I call this one the Push-Up Bra IPA because it's like, all right, like I'm drinking an IPA, I'm showing off a little bit, but I don't want to step too far into the pine cone realm, but we're getting there.
We're getting there. So insulting to the crafters who dedicate their lives to this shit.
I'm sorry, crafters. I do love craft beer, but just IPAs, I don't know. I just don't like to eat pine cones. So.
Kyle, you're also drinking the Cozy Cold IPA.
Yeah, I think the best thing about Nebraska Brewing Company is every 2 weeks, we come in here and record every week, and every 2 weeks we come in here and Connor's like, hey, got something new. You guys want to give it a shot? And so this week was the Cozy IPA, and yeah, it's super good.
All right, so we do have a guest today. If you're watching our video, you can see him already. But if you're listening to us, this is a man who's worn numerous hats in his life. He's a media guy, and he's giggling over there. But just to keep it relevant to today, he is one half of the Doc Talk podcast.
Shout out.
And here's a hint: he's not the doctor.
No, I'm going to be close to being that smart. I mean, you guys may not know this, but Dr. Rob Zadiska, and by the way, I'm Travis Justice.
Hello, Travis.
Dr. Rob Zadiska has the second highest Wonderlic in NFL history. So think about that. I mean, that's how smart of a dude he is. And there would be times when Rob comes over to my house, and he'll just sit there, and he won't leave because he's talking so much. I'll go about doing chores, and my wife is stuck with Rob, and he won't leave, and it's just because he just keeps drinking, and he's like, he doesn't know when to land the plane. So his wife, Jennifer, who's a saint. If you ever see Rob in public and you hear Jennifer go, land the plane, that means shut the fuck up, right now, okay? And so there's me sometimes during the podcast say, I'll be land the plane, dude, because it's really an easy podcast I do with Rob because I literally say hello, and that's all I have to do. That's all I really have to do, and we go for about an hour and 30 minutes, and that's why we don't do video. I mean, you guys got way too big of a production here for me. This is giving me anxiety. Going, shit, I would have to go edit this. It would take me way too much time. I record a podcast and I have it up in 15 minutes. I just go through, run it through Adobe, clean it up, upload it, and go. This is giving me anxiety. I'm like, man, I'd have to do a 2-camera shoot, try to do this through Adobe Premiere, and it would just this would take me 4 days to do, and I just don't have the time to do it.
Well, the beauty of Doc Talk is it is off the cuff. It is kind of just, I don't want to say rough around the edges.
Oh, it's very rough around the edges.
But I was trying to put it nicely, but you know what I mean? It's just kind of get it and go.
I mean, if you're coming to Doc Talk for football talk, you're probably coming to the wrong podcast. Because I take my radio philosophy. Remember, I worked with Todd and Tyler for 14 years, right? And I learned that, first of all, you got to be entertaining. If you're not entertaining, you're going to be boring. And I also host a sports radio show in Des Moines every day. And people go, well, you only talk about 15 minutes of sports out of 2 hours. Yeah, because I want listeners to go around. There's a reason I'm number one. And so, I mean, there's a fine balance between X's and O's and being entertaining. And that's why you try to find what that balance is. And Rob and I have been doing this for such a long time. You got to remember, him and I have been doing broadcasting together since about 2001. You guys were probably fucking in diapers at that point. And
no, listen, my first introduction to you was Sports Sound Off.
Yeah, so
every night after the news.
Yeah, every Sunday night. So that what year would that have been? So because it started with Tommy Frazier. So my first co-host was Tommy Frazier, and then he went and worked for that prick Steve Peterson, and so I brought in Rob, and Rob and I had about a 10, 11 year run. Mm-hmm. And after I retired from Channel 3, I like to say I retired. Actually, I just left that dump. But it was it was one of those things okay, let's keep content going because I knew I like to think we were a little bit ahead of our time, and that in 2010, 2011. I started a website called Husker Hawkeye. Of course, you guys know that I'm from Iowa. I host the Iowa Hawkeye Call-In Show. I'm a Hawk fan. I grew up a Hawk fan, and I don't apologize for it. But I don't get into this tit for tat of who's. I don't play into that because Nebraska's a better program historically than Iowa. So I don't get into this. Oh my God, this trash talking back and forth. It's
Right.
not worth it. But we started a website called Husker Hawkeye, and we were actually doing video and stuff. And I went, shit, this is a lot of work. This is way too much work for me because I have a full-time job too outside of this. So then Dave Remington calls me up and he's like, you know what? Hey, I liked you guys on Sound Off. Would you guys do a podcast if I sponsor you? And I said, well, what are we talking for sponsorship? And he threw a number out. I'm like, yeah, we are very much into that. So, Rob and I have been podcasting things since 2012. I mean, if you think about it, that's
a long time.
long time
That's
to
before-
podcast. I mean, it's in, and so it's really grown over the last couple of years. And, we got a great partnership with Husker Max. We got a great partnership now with Betfred, and I don't know if you guys are into gambling, but Betfred is it's a very popular one overseas, growing here in the United States. But they're in 5 states right now, and I work with them in Iowa. And hopefully one day Nebraska will get its shit together and actually have sports gambling here.
You hope.
I really do, and because if people just looked at the numbers, I could pull you. I should have brought them with me because I have them sitting at my desk at work. The amount of money that the state of Iowa cashes in each and every month. Not just yearly, we're talking monthly from tax receipts from organized gambling and sports gambling is amazing to me. And Nebraska's missing a golden opportunity. You can play, and Keno's the worst, right? Keno is the absolute worst game in the whole world
Worst
to play.
odds.
Worst odds. It's like you're really stealing from somebody. And I was actually going through all the sports betting apps. There's like 3 sports betting apps in Iowa that lost money last month. So it's not like the house always wins.
Right.
So you look at it like, oh my God, you lost money. You lost a lot of money. Now the big ones, they win. MGM, Caesars, and those guys. But
They know what they're doing.
they are. But Betfred jumped on this year and there because Dave Remington retired. I mean, it shows you. We're getting old now that Dave Remington's reached like retirement age. But he's like, I don't get to run the trophy anymore. Everything like that. So he's like, just go find another sponsor. And luckily, sports gambling is growing, and we have a sports gambling app as a sponsor now. Look at you guys going, maybe we should call these sports gambling guys and give us some money.
No, we actually, part of NBNR Media, we actually have a sports betting podcast underneath our umbrella.
Yeah.
And
Where's the line?
Where's the line? So
Shout out.
to them. They do a good job of just helping the amateur bettor just kind of understand how to bet, what they're actually placing their money on and everything else. So, sports betting is getting huge. Do you think that... So right now it's kind of stuck between sports betting is a game of skill versus a game of chance.
It's a game of analytics.
Okay.
So and it's always there's always chance, right? I mean, you're always going to have the upset. You're going to have something, but if you do the work, if you know the analytics, you will probably come out ahead. A good friend of mine, Scott Spreitzer, you should have him on that podcast. Scott grew up in Bellevue and moved to Las Vegas when he was 17 years old. And Scott's been a regular guest of mine back when I was on Sports 14, or not Sports 1490. I was on Sports 1490, believe it or not, when 1490 was sports, but then Big Sports 590. So he's been a partner of mine for, almost 20 years. And he's from Omaha, has lived in Vegas since he was 17 years old. He's a professional handicapper. It's all he's done since he was 17 years old is bet on sports. And he's an analytical guy. You realize when you talk to him, he's not one of these, hey, call my 1-800 number and I'll give you the pick of the week. That's not what Scott does.
Yeah.
He's very open and honest. And, he goes, to make money sports gambling, you have to win 54% of the time. 54% of the time is all you really have to do. Now, you got to put some big money up.
Mm-hmm.
But when I talk to him, what I love about Scott isn't that it's the analytics and the data that he can pull out. And really, and he goes into that, makes deep dives to make educational or educated guesses. So I think, is there a game of chance? Absolutely. 100% it's a game of chance, but it's also skill. Where they're going to make the money is people like me who's like, I'm going to bet with my gut, man, or my heart. I feel it. The over's coming in. But, I mean, you got to be smart enough to stay away from a game and not let your heart get involved with it. But I would say it's more and more skill. I think there's more skill involved than there is in blackjack. I think there's more skill than there is in roulette. And, it gets such a bad rap. Everybody's like, oh, you don't want people booing at halftime because you didn't hit the over. Well, come on, that's not really going to happen. You're not going to, and the truth is, there are more safeguards in place now than ever than when you went to the south side of town to Guido the bookie, and you could get to guys and have point shaving, right? There are places, there's stuff in place now in Vegas that they go, hey, this guy's betting. I mean, they turned the guy in from the Falcons.
Mhm.
I mean, Vegas went to him and say, hey, this guy's betting on sports. You got a problem. That was the best thing that could happen because it legitimized the checks and balances that take place. I don't want to hear the tired argument that, well, it's addictive. Well, you know what? There are a lot of things addictive. Drinking this beer is addictive. The gummies that I take that are marijuana laced are addictive, but I like them. Yeah. So it's so I mean, well, I take the Delta 8. Those are legal. Yeah. But there's so many things out there that are addictive, right? Is that, you know, sooner or later we got to believe in personal responsibility and let the chips fall where they may. I love gambling. Fucking love it. Guess what I don't do? I don't gamble because I'm too cheap.
Yeah, same.
That's the tough part.
I could seriously, all of us.
I could talk about it all the time. I think you have the right to do it. I don't like parting with my money. If I lose $10, I feel like guilty for like weeks. I'm like, oh my God, I lost it. And here's the bad part. Betfred started me out with like a $500 free. They just gave me $500 to bet.
Oh yeah.
I lost free money and I felt bad. You know, and they wanted you to, they're like, just go all in on 500 because they were like, well, if you do that and you lose it, you're going to fill your bank. Here I am, betting $5 parlays, trying to, milk that $500 for as long as I can. I'm like, oh God, I lost $5. I can't bet for another 3 weeks. Yep. So I'm sitting there right now, like $330 in my account, and I haven't touched it for like 6 months. I'm like, they're probably getting mad at me but I just don't like losing money, even when it's free. So, so that goes back to the skill part of it. I think there's a lot of knowledge that you can take away. And if you follow the gambling trends, if you follow what they do, I think you can learn a lot about the game coming up. Right? I mean, I think the best research, the best scouting reports that take place week in and week out for games are found through gamblers. Absolutely.
Oh, 100%.
And like your point about people in the crowd booing you because you didn't reach the over under or whatever. Yeah. It's like that'll be probably 4 people in the whole stadium, and everyone else is going to be looking at them like,
what are you complaining about?
You're a freak.
Well, no,
weird.
They've been doing that for a long time. They just didn't know what they were booing about. You know, now because it's not like people just, I remember going to the Marley Bone in the old days, going inside, picking up my sheet, going, okay, I gotta look at my sheet, right? I mean, people have been betting on these games since the 1920s. It's not like gambling on Husker games or any other college football game is this brand new novel idea. People booed. They're like, what are they booing? Now you just know, oh, you didn't hit the over, man, or you got a bad beat, because a bad beat's going to happen too. But if you're really that concerned about it, you've got a shallow life, and you need to really be concerned with something else.
Or if there's booing, it's because you're 3-9. That's just the most basic low-level joke I can say.
Jared and I, so we both don't really gamble at all.
Never.
Yeah, like
never.
Very stingy with our monies. Oh. And this weekend, we are going for a bachelor party to Deadwood, South Dakota.
Of all places.
Of all fucking places. So all there is freaking casinos and drinking. So what are we going to do? Probably just drink a lot.
I'm going to channel my Al Swearingen. You know who Al Swearingen is?
No, fill me in.
Deadwood, HBO.
Okay, see, I again, being cheap, I don't buy HBO.
I don't either.
In fact, I just got HBO Max because my producer in Des Moines, I made him give me a sign-in. I'm like, hey, because I wanted to watch Winning Time. So I wanted to watch Winning Time with the Lakers, and I'm like, hey, dude, I really want to watch this, but I don't want to spend the money. Give me your login. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, give me your login. So I have the login, but I haven't, I never watched HBO before that. Like, I've never seen Game of Thrones. I feel like
haven't either.
I should be left out. But
Game of Thrones, everything up till that last season is freaking gold. But that last season ruins everything.
Again, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm sorry.
No idea.
And there might be a few people
He
listening.
talks over here, by the way. I'm glad you guys let him say a word.
Hey, look at you.
You seen Game of Thrones?
No, I haven't.
Fuck no.
No.
Well, fuck you then.
So is this what you guys do full time? Is this little media company your full time job?
No. Work at a full-time job. He's a teacher. He works at a bank. I work at an insurance company, and then we just shoot shit for fun.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. Turn it the hobby. Unfortunately, this is all I've done since I was 16, and if I can't leave it, I don't know why that is.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a part of all of us that envy you for that.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
yeah. Absolutely.
What, that I've been able to do it since I was 16?
That you can do it in general.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, exactly.
Well, hey, some people might argue otherwise, and that's where.
Well, a lot of
this
people,
next-
Nebraska fans hate my guts, so it's not
whatever.
So you're from Iowa.
Yeah.
You're born there, Iowa fan, but you largely made your name here in Nebraska as
True.
kind of a Nebraska media guy. So just kind of going to relating to both Nebraska fans and Iowa fans, the hate that you receive from both fan bases,
It's true.
or the love that you receive too.
It's interesting. The love from Nebraska fans has changed a little bit. It may be thanks to the podcast and the fact that a lot of Huskers, a lot of former Huskers in the Golden Era like me, right? I mean,
Tommy
Frazier
Frazier.
likes me, Terry Keneally likes me, Dr. Rob likes me, Dave Remington likes me, Aaron Graham likes me. I mean, I have these relationships with these guys because they knew when I covered them, I was fair and I wasn't this, I did sports a little differently. I'm sorry to my broadcast brethren, but there's not an interesting TV sports guy right now. All right, I wanted to make it interesting. I wanted to make it opinionated. I wanted to just have fun with people. Let me tell you where I made Nebraska fans mad, and
It's not hard.
No, I can tell you exactly where it happened, and I got to say I told you so. It happened when Frank Solich was fired. Because I went on the air that night and said, "This is the biggest travesty of justice," that I've seen in a long time.
See what you did there.
It really bothered me. I remember being in Boulder, Colorado, when Frank when they beat Colorado. It was Frank's last game, I think, before he was fired.
Yep.
Jack Stark came off the field and gave me a hug because he knew how supportive I was of Frank. And I had been going on the air because the rumors were starting to swirl, and I'm just like, there's something just does not smell right here, right? And when he got fired, I went on and did a commentary, and we were doing sound off at the time, and I went nuts. I absolutely lost it. Now, Nebraska fans are followers at sometimes, right? And you want to believe everything everybody tells you. So when Steve Peterson says this is what we had to do. To bring the program, a lot of people bought it because you had the record of the year before when it just wasn't good. You make the changes, and I'm like, you got to give those changes a little bit more time. And Frank was a man of character, was a man of integrity, and did things the right way. And I just didn't think, hey, you don't go hire 3 or 4 new assistant coaches and then you fire them after they won 9 games that year.
10
or was it? Well,
Yeah,
9 with the bowl game with Bo. And then the debacle of the coaching search that took place afterwards showed that Steve Peterson was not prepared to fire a guy like that. And then when I got really in trouble was about, I think it was January, February after that. And Tom Osborne held a news conference at, I think it was the old Best Western New Tower or something down in Lincoln. And he had this news conference to say he was going to keep his name on the field because that's when they were doing the renovation. They were going to build the North Stadium and stuff like that, and they're going to call it Tom Osborne Field. And I went on TV that night and I said, "Listen, this is the biggest joke I've ever seen. Tom Osborne just lied to everybody." He just lied to everybody, and I was so upset. I've never taken a story personal like I did Frank, and. About 2 days later, I got a phone call. Said, "This is Congressman Osborne's office. Please hold." And Tom got on the phone and yelled at me for about 15 minutes because I called him a liar on the air. I mean, that's a bold step to take.
A death sentence.
Yeah, that was a bold step to take. And I have no problem telling the story. I think statute of limitations are over now. And because Tom probably wouldn't even remember the story. I remember because when Tom Osborne calls you and yells at you, you're going to remember that, right?
Yeah.
But I let him yell at me, and finally he said, "Travis, you were right." I said, "What?" He goes, "You were right." He goes, "But I'm Tom Osborne, and I can't come out and divide a fan base like that." Okay? He goes, "I'll tell you where I got lied to." He goes, "This would have never been an issue." Steve Peterson called me the night before they did the big press conference to announce the North Stadium expansion in the field. He goes, "Tom, I need your name on this field because I can't raise the money if your name's not on the field." And Tom said, "You know what, Steve, because I know Frank needs these facilities to continue to grow, to continue to win, to continue to recruit, I'm going to do it, but I'm only doing it for Frank." Tom Osborne shows up the very next day at the announcement, which is in the North Stadium. what was the practice field and the baseball field, that stuff at the time. And Frank wasn't there. And he knew that Steve had lied to him. Okay?
Wow.
So how's that for a story, right? So he knew at that point that Steve Peterson had lied to him because Frank was not even at the announcement of this, and he knew that Frank was going to be out at that point. But he could not. But if you go back and look at the course of history, what happened after that, Tom did a very good job of dividing the fan base. He remember that the alumni, they had separate golf tournaments. Tom was not on Steve's side. He was never a big supporter of Bill Callahan. And he did, I like to say this, and Tom, forgive me, but the man is a saint, and I get him probably more today than I did when I was covering in my 20s. He can be vindictive, man. He can be very, very, he can get even. He doesn't get mad. He gets even.
Yeah.
Okay. And so during the course of the Bill Callahan era, I sat there the whole time going, I don't care what you say. This is just, I was anti-Nebraska on the air during it. I did not hide my feelings about it. And I'll never forget, I forget what year it was, 2009, the year they were playing Oklahoma State, I believe it was, and they were getting their ass kicked. And the sheet went up in the South Stadium and said, "Fire Peterson now." And he got fired the next Monday, I believe it was.
2007. I remember me and my dad went to that game, and at halftime, half the stadium cleared out.
It was over at that point. And I got to play a little I told you so at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Nebraska fans have ever forgiven me for the anti-Nebraska attitude I had for a good point, because I just liked Frank Solich that much. And the fact that his name is on the Hall of Fame ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame is it's right. I never worked with a guy who had more character, more integrity, tried to do things the right way. Listen, you don't replace a guy who wins 3 national titles and expect the fan base to be happy, and not to expect a dip. And the truth is, Tom Osborne, and I think Tom would admit this today, Tom Osborne hamstrung and handcuffed Frank Solich from day one because he believed in continuity. He believed in keeping things the same. So he made him keep all those assistant coaches. Well, the truth is, you may have the same relationship. If you become a CEO, you want to kind of put your own stamp. You want to see what you can do. So when Charlie was there, when Milt was there, George Darlington, those guys are they're classics, right? They're on the Mount Rush, but sometimes you needed to change it up. And I think because in 2 ways, those were Tom's guys. But also, those guys worked for Tom. They didn't work. They were. You go from being on the same playing field, same organizational chart as Frank, and all of a sudden, well, he's telling you what to do, and you got to. That changes the dynamic of friendships. It changes the dynamic of a lot of things. So I think Tom making him keep a lot of those guys around was good in the beginning, but at the end, you're like, oh, that took a toll. Took a toll big time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I feel like, shifting to 2022, Scott Frost is almost in the same scenario where he fired his guys and now he's got this new staff coming in. It's like, do you give the guy time? He's 15-29. Do you give him a longer leash now? Do you let, because Frank didn't get enough time, does Scott get an extra year even if he doesn't make another bowl game?
I think there are, from what I've been told, and I think I'm pretty well connected still, there are a clear set of metrics that he has to hit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I don't know what those metrics are, right? I'm sure it could be a number of wins, could be a number of it could be a number of different things.
1 score losses.
But there are a clear set of metrics that to keep your job, you have to do this. To lose your job, you're going to have to do this. And I think that's fair in today's day and age. I'm not a fan. I don't know if you guys listened to the most recent podcast. We had Jared Lamprecht up in the studio, and we had Luke Reimer and Nick Hendricks up there. It was good. I'm not a fan of this guy. I have no problem guys making money. I think when we all sat here a year ago talking about name, image, and likeness, we thought, hey, you're going to pay a guy $50 to come on your podcast, or they're going to go out and do all of a sudden, when you're talking $100,000 and $1 million deals, where you're like, well, hold on now.
Yeah, wait a minute.
This is against the spirit of what we. And again, guys can make money, but if you're going to build a roster through free agency, it's clear where they're throwing their chips, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, we got to win and win now. Iowa lost 2 guys, 3 guys maybe. And I don't know if they brought anybody in through the portal at all. Not saying that's the right way to do it,
right?
But they didn't lose a lot of guys to where they had to do it. Now, Charlie Jones just left, which is you guys should care about special teams, right? Because special teams can really mess a game
Travis,
up really quick.
Shut up.
but Charlie Jones was the Big Ten return specialist of the year, and all of a sudden he just ups and leaves, and we're like, well, but we're hearing that's an NIL deal. So who knows how this is all going to play out? But I think Nebraska gone full in on free agency. Now you better hope that these guys pan out. And the hard part is, you can take great athletic talent. This is why I don't get too high, too low, because I've just been around it way too much through, I've covered Wisconsin, I've covered Iowa State, I've covered Iowa, I've covered Nebraska. I think I've covered some pretty good teams over the years. And one thing I've learned is you can have great talent, but that doesn't make them a great team right away. Remember, you got to be a teammate. You got to be a culture guy. There's so much more that goes into it. Are these guys coming just for the money? Or are they coming for the experience that is Nebraska? I'm not going to poo-poo Nebraska's experience. It's one of the best places to watch. It's not the best place to watch a game. I'll still say Texas A&M is the best place to watch a college football game.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But we could get into that conversation. But it's there's more than just throwing talent out there. I mean, you got a short time to gel. You got a short time to put this thing together and to play as a unit, right? And that's easier said than done. Then you hope. Listen, you're going to have some busts here too. I mean, your grading scale is a little higher because I've always hated recruiting. I've been an anti-recruiting guy. I watch all these TV guys run around and do. Remember Harrison Beck? Remember that name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember Channel 7. I was at Channel 3 at the time. Channel 7, they sent their fucking reporters down there to do live shots out of Harrison Beck's backyard. And he was a bust, right?
Terrible.
And the truth is, you can't. I've seen. If you would have told me Eric Kraus was going to win the Heisman Trophy, and I covered Eric in high school, I'd have said you're smoking crack. Good player. And I'd tell this to Eric's face. I never thought once you would win the Heisman
Trophy?
Yeah. There's only been one guy in my time of covering sports that I thought, oh, you're a star. And that was Amon Green. I knew Amon Green was going to be a star at Central. You just went, that he's got it.
Different.
But after that, yeah, I mean, but you don't see that too often out of high school kids. You just don't, and that's why I never jumped on the. I appreciate what Sean Callahan does, but you know what? I would hate to sit there and knock on 17-year-old doors all the time. I don't get it. That's not my game.
Texting and calling.
Yeah, that's
hoping
not my
they
game.
call you back.
Yeah, good luck. That's a weird relationship to me.
Yeah.
So it is. I've never been a big recruiting guy. If somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, you hear about the 5-star?" I'd be no. Because I don't care. I just don't care.
So, Travis, we're coming back after we just refilled our drinks here at NBC, by the way. Just plug in. Talking about the transfer portal.
Okay.
Now, with Scott coming into this crucial year, he let everybody know, I'm going on the transfer portal. I'm getting guys that we need to fill holes, right? And we knew this all along. And so far, on paper, of course, it looks good. Right?
Third or fourth best, I think.
It could have burnt down. Like it could have. You get all these visitors and they don't like it, and so they go somewhere else. But he's gotten these dudes. He's got O'Shawn Matthews. He's got Devin Drew, et cetera, et cetera.
Casey Thompson. Come on.
Yeah. Well, look.
Are you sure Casey's going to be the quarterback?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you sure?
Yes. I do.
Okay.
So.
Are you sure?
Yeah. See,
do you know something?
Hey. Chubba coming.
No, Chubba ain't
okay.
playing.
Now hold on a second.
Ain't happening.
Stop before we get on this tangent. Before we get too far off track here. Hold on. So he's brought in these Stephon Wynn, right? Alabama. Devin Drew, Texas Tech. Am I missing someone on the D line? I think that's it.
That's it.
So, as an Iowa fan, are you like, oh, Scott's bringing in these defensive linemen. Maybe he's up to something this year.
Yeah, I was won 6 straight.
Seven.
Seven straight.
Shut up,
Yeah.
Travis.
No,
He's still the coach.
Listen,
Doesn't matter.
Listen. You can make fun of Kirk Ferentz, and a lot of people do. If anything, they're consistent. 7 wins to 10 wins. That's. I mean, at the end of the day, Iowa's going to win 7. They're going to win 10. And the difference is, where do they win those one score? Do they win or lose that one score game? I've just come to accept that. Okay, right. I don't expect national titles. I don't expect conference titles, really. I just know that Iowa's going to be pretty much in every game that it plays, and there's nobody's going to outcoach. and look at the player development. The player development speaks for itself. I mean,
Yep.
you cannot
NFL
argue.
draft
You
picks.
cannot argue player. I mean, we talked about the Hall of Fame with Frank Solich earlier, Dallas Clark, and there's one more. I think Robert Gallery's on the Hall of Fame. But yes, is on the. So I mean, you look at the tight ends that go in. You talk to a lot of NFL coaches. They'll tell you that Iowa players, and this isn't a knock against Nebraska, because I think Nebraska used to be this way when they cared about player development. They got away from player development with Bill Callahan. I think they got a little back into it with Bo. I think Bo got more out of his players than people will ever understand. Mike Riley, and I don't think Scott has done a very good job of developing players.
Nope.
Okay, Iowa develops players, but I don't think Iowa cares about anybody. Iowa just goes, here's our formula. And Iowa fans have accepted it, right? I mean, most college football fans that want to be at an elite level would never accept, 7 to 10.
Right.
They just wouldn't accept it because it would drive them nuts. Iowa fans accepted, hey, Kirk Ferentz is the coach. This is the way they're going to do it. You're going to have a down year, you're going to have an up year, but it's going to be it's a chess game. He's never, and that's all it is they will wait for you to make the mistake.
Yep.
Block punt. Everybody knew as soon as that punt was blocked,
Game
was
was
over. Everybody knew it.
I was in the stands and I go,
It's over.
Done.
And it's weird how that really happened. And remember, they weren't even winning it. I mean, even after that, they weren't winning. But everybody knew that the wheels were going to fall off at that point. They wait for you to make I think it's a dangerous way to play football. But to answer that was a long way to tell me to land the plane. But that's a long way of getting, no, they don't care. They just don't care. Because he's been doing this will be 22 years now, maybe 23.
First year was 99.
Yeah.
Against Nebraska.
Yeah, against Nebraska. I was there. But they just do the things they do, and they let the chips fall they may. The interesting part about Iowa this year is going to be the quarterback. Is Alex Padilla going to be the guy? Spencer Petras. It's going to be a train wreck.
So 7 is the train wreck, though.
7 is the train wreck.
Right.
Listen,
but he gets a bonus at 7, so it doesn't matter. I mean, it's an amazing deal.
It's beautiful.
But to answer your question, Iowa does not care about what Nebraska does, what PJ Fleck's doing, what Wisconsin's doing. They believe in their system. They trust their process, and that's what they're going to do. And that's what they've done with NIL, right? I mean, Iowa and Iowa State have both said. Iowa State has said they're going to use NIL and their collective to retain, not to recruit. I think Nebraska is taking a very similar role to what Ohio State is doing. Ryan Day has said they need $13 million. And Nebraska has said in some meetings they need $10 million. Because that's not going to put them at the high end. That's not going to put them at the low end. It's going to put them right in the middle. But Nebraska's looking to spend $10 million a year in payroll.
That's insane. And not out of their pockets either. That's coming out of booster pockets.
Well, but the facilities race in college football is over. And I think if we knew, I just said we, I cannot believe I
you
just
said
did that.
we.
I think if everybody would have known 2 years ago what was going to happen, what is being built right now would not be getting built.
Right.
Nebraska may be building the last piece of facilities in college football that you're going to see in a long time. I'm not talking at Nebraska. I'm talking in college football, because all the money now is going to go to NIL and how you're going to pay these guys. So what you're going to do is it's not going after Mr. $20 million, Mr. $30 million deal. You need a booster that gives you so if I'm Trev Alberts right now, I'm probably going, where's my money coming from? Okay, they're going to target these boosters that are at 10,000 to 15,000 a year guys. They're going to go, here's what you're going to do. You give us 5,000, you give the rest of the university, and we're good to go. Mm-hmm. Because if you get enough $5,000 a year guys, you can hit $5 million pretty quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very, very quick. And so then you go fill in that gap with some other big guys, and you can get to $10 million fairly quickly. The interesting part will be see what happens when 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, and there's no value, because value to a booster is a win. Value to a booster is a championship.
Your return of investment.
Yeah, they don't care if they're going to come to you. Yeah, great. You're going to come to my place of business. You're going to glad hand with my employees. It's going to be great. That's fine. That's a circle jerk that everybody goes, okay, that's a benefit. What I'm paying for is for you to go win football games. So I'm going to ask you guys an interesting question. I brought this up. Rob and I talk about this quite a bit because I have pretty strong feelings about this. You're getting paid as a college athlete now, not just getting paid, $10,000 a year. You were criticized somewhat before. Should heavier criticism come with a paycheck? Because Casey Thompson said everybody who's starting is making $100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. You're a 6-figure guy. Does that change the way you approach your criticism of a college athlete?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you why. It all goes into what you're doing off the field is what makes your value, right? So, and this is Kyle's inside view, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna lay it out here. My barber cuts Casey's hair. Okay. So I'm talking to my barber, and he says, "Look, I had Casey in here the other day, and he sat in here for 2 hours with a binder that was as thick as a Bible of the playbook."
See, that scares me because that brings me back to memories of Bill Callahan.
Yeah, it does.
Think
No,
about that.
it does. But what I'm saying is this dude just taking the paycheck because, he's got skill, right? Or is he putting in the investment? Is he putting in the time every single day that it takes to learn what you're supposed to be doing, perfecting your craft? We're going to get into the whole Peyton Manning being the GOAT argument later. The guy is all up there, and all the preparation in the world goes into his game. So if I'm paying you $100,000, I would expect that you'd be doing those things when you're not on the field.
True, but at the end of the day, if he makes Adrian Martinez like mistakes, what does the criticism look like?
It's going to be bad.
Well, yeah.
It's going to be worse.
But how many times?
It'll be worse.
You know how many times I heard, "Hey, they're only college kids." I don't think that applies. No,
No.
Right.
It's pay for play. You're now a professional.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, you are a professional getting paid to play college football.
Yeah.
More power to you. If this was me 3 years ago, I said never let it happen. I'm one of these guys. Well, it's happened. You can't stop it, and you really can't backtrack now. I still think you should cut off the transfer portal. I don't think you should be able to play immediately. But that's not for me to decide, and they've ruined that. And it'd be hard to go backwards. But I just think it'd be interesting to see the criticism, but what that does mentally to kids now too, because you're still talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that are going to be when you're at one point you're adored, you're worshipped, and then all of a sudden, boom, they don't like me anymore. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that the possibility is there.
So one of the criticisms that I've personally had about Nebraska recruiting, and not just Nebraska recruiting, like it's Nebraska in general. When kids come here, they are automatically revered. On campus, they're kings, right?
Has been forever.
Yes.
It has been forever. And now you're seeing photos of them on visits, and they're sitting in the throne. You only live once, right? Have fun. I'm that guy. Have fun, you know.
Yeah.
But there's a sense of entitlement when kids get here. I'm at Nebraska. I'm king. I can do no wrong. But then you had the NIL element, and it's just like I feel like criticism.
So let me.
I don't know how to word this.
I'm going to turn around back. I'll ask the questions. Here's the journalist coming out of me. Is that, do you like the Iowa State model of we're gonna do NIL to retain, not to recruit?
Yes.
But
Wow, that was quick.
But that's the Iowa State culture. They always talk about this 5-star culture, right?
I mean, Matt Campbell's going to be a star. Whether he stays at Iowa State, that dude can coach. I don't know whether you like him or not. But I think it's an interesting approach and it's a gamble. I think they know it's a gamble. And I think it's led by Jamie Pollard, who, by the way, could have been the AD at Nebraska.
Yeah,
That's what I heard.
we've heard that.
No, it's not a herd. I mean, his kid went to school there. He wanted the job. He flat out told him, "You didn't give me. I wanted the job when you gave it to Bill Moose. I'm not taking it this time because now I'm good enough for you." So
Right.
So I mean, and by the way, he would have been a great AD.
Yeah.
But I think Trev's doing a great job. I think Trev understands organizational leadership. And I think he is exactly what Nebraska needs right now. I think he's gonna make some people mad, but you know what? Good ADs do tough leadership decisions. And I think Trev's really good at what he does. But to recruit with that or to retain, because I get more upset if I lose good players than I do if I. Now, Scott's in a different situation. He needed to win now. Yeah. So, I mean, I get why you do it. But going forward, do you want to keep doing free agency, or do you want to say, hey, we're building with you, and we're going to keep you here by this means?
The thing with Matt Campbell, right? He can say that he wants to retain because he knows that locker room is mine, right?
Yep.
The culture is great, so we're going to retain and keep our guys. Whereas with Nebraska, culture is a buzzword that we throw around a lot, right?
But the C word.
You got to win now or else I'm out. So
Yeah.
I have to bring in as many people as I can. It's kind of a crapshoot.
Regardless, if I actually plan on being here for the long haul, I'm just going to be here for a year. You are a stepping stone, and that's what we're running
Yeah.
into right now with NIL and the transfer portal.
Yeah,
That's it.
It's a dangerous road to go down. So I'm not saying there's one right way or one wrong way. I think we need 5-6 years of data to see how this thing's all going to turn out. Maybe even longer than that. They're just two different philosophies. Trust me, I talked to Iowa State coaches, and they're worried about it because they're basically being told this is what you have to do. We're not going to sit there and throw money at recruits. It's a dangerous road to go down, but they believe in what they do. I think Iowa's kind of taking a similar system. They have collectives, but they're not going to be spending $10 million right now. The goal is not to spend $10 million a year in payroll. It's just
Right.
not. That's a major gamble.
Well, I think Nebraska's they're a brand in NIL. They're going to be a top dog in NIL.
They're a national brand. Period.
Exactly, and I think that they're going to be able to balance the free agent. We got to get 1 or 2 guys every year, but then we got to keep our guys happy. I think they're going to be that university that can do that, but not every university can do that. Iowa State can't do that. They're not a profitable booster heavy university like Nebraska
With a fan base that
hold on
says,
now. I would disagree with you. Now, do they have the money? Does it thrown around? Go to Iowa State in 2003 and to Iowa State now, and you tell me there's not booster money there. I'll tell you smoking crack because their facilities are really, really, really good. What it takes is leadership and belief. I mean, you're talking about until Matt Campbell got there, Paul Rhodes had a couple good seasons. Dan McCarney started that, built an enthusiasm. You're talking about a fan base that, I mean, they didn't do let's be honest, Nebraska hasn't consecutively sold out games. You go to every game.
That's
a farce.
Yeah.
But you're talking about fans that showed up. That stadium seats 50, 55,000. They'd get 49 on a regular basis when they sucked. I mean, they're loyal. When you have Pioneer seeds, when you there's money up there.
A lot of ag money.
Yeah,
a lot of ag money.
And there's a lot of money in dirt. All right?
Yes, there is.
So don't in grain bins and the sook up. So just they have the money. It's just they're not desperate for an actual title yet. Nebraska boosters are desperate for an actual title and are willing to fork over the money for it.
Now, you recently, and you mentioned this before, you recently had Jared Lambrecht, Luke Reimer, and Nick Henrich on.
Yep.
Now, there is a question that I want to ask is, do you kind of wish you had Casey Thompson on instead of them?
Here's the deal. I didn't really get a chance. I worked it all out with Jared. He goes, I didn't really want players on. Not that I don't want players, but I'm not like that. I really wanted to talk collective with Jared. And I'm making the assumption now, Jared was great. The players were great. I'm making the assumption that he brought 2 players along, and they were great. It was cool. My daughter, who's 15, she's like, "Oh my God, look at these players." She goes, "What are these young men doing at our house?" It's funny. It's Memorial Day Saturday, and I've got Jared Lambrecht and 2 Huskers, really good Huskers in my basement. Yeah. People have no idea in my neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
But it's I think they were. It's probably their part of their name, image, and likeness deal is they got paid to be on my podcast. I asked them that. It was funny. I go, "You guys getting paid to be here?" Like, and I go, "Okay, you're getting paid." So that's part of what they probably have to do, to. And I get it. I understand it because the problem we're running into is that I had to make a couple of adjustments, and I have no problem saying this now. Is that I had to change my whole open and really back off my main sponsor, which is Betfred Sports. So in that, I don't really want players on because I don't want to put players in a very bad. And I got some criticism for some listeners because I don't want to put players in a bad position to where I swear like a sailor, I drink like a fish, and we talk gambling, and I don't want to put them in that position to where they risk saying something, doing. Yeah. I mean, I could play gotcha, but that's not cool. No. I mean, it's not cool. And so, I told Jared, I said, you don't need to bring players. I don't need them. But when he showed up with them, it was great. And they were really, it was interesting that, I don't know if you guys listened to it. I asked them all, okay, what have you spent money on? None of them have spent money, according to them. But
sword?
Yeah, he wanted. Yeah, Nick wanted the Catan. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you want the sword? And then Luke was like, I almost got a crotch rocket. I'm like, what the fuck, man? A crotch rocket?
You're gonna freaking get put on the IR.
I would have taken. If Casey would have come up, it's fine. It's just I don't want to put. I mean, my duty's to my sponsors first, and then Rob and I have done a podcast for 9 years without ever having guests. We've had more guests in the last year than we have. We're not guest driven. I'll take them, but I want to make sure that if you come up and you're on my podcast, you better be vulnerable. You better be willing to share stories, and you better be entertaining. Because you're never fucking coming back. I mean, I don't want boring shit. There's enough boring shit out there that I don't need to listen to it. How many podcasts are there out there in the world?
Too many.
There's way
now.
too many, right?
Yes.
I mean, you guys have one. No,
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm here. But this is what I like about podcasts compared to radio. I mean, I've done radio since I was 16 years old. I was thinking about this coming in. I'm like, God, I could never go do somebody else's radio show. I mean, because you get in trouble, right? I mean, you're like, what are you doing on it? You can't. You'd be violating your contract. Here, I don't think podcasts really have this competition, right? I mean, it's like everybody listens to everybody's content. It's pretty cool. I don't listen to a lot of content. I don't. It's Rob and I do our thing, and I don't listen to any Iowa stuff. It's funny how. Because you guys know this, I'm impressed. I want to give you guys a big compliment because I've been in the content game since I was really young. I announced my first baseball game when I was 9 years old.
Damn.
And then
What was I doing when I was 9?
I got my first radio job when I was 16. And I've had this voice since I was 16. And I was somewhere this weekend, and someone was like, I know the voice. I'm like, shit. I was on television for 20 years. Can you just say you know the face just once? Then I'm like, well, fuck. I work for Channel 3 and I work for 42, so nobody ever watched those stations. But I was on Todd and Tyler for 14 years, and that wasn't a bad thing. But I got my first radio job when I was 14. And I know now, I mean, when I was at Channel 3, I mean, I did 3 sportscasts a day. Rob and I do, our goal is to do a podcast every week during the season. During the off season, we've done more off season podcasts than we ever have. Yeah. The fact that you guys are doing this every week, I want to commend you because producing content, people will never understand this. Producing content is one of the hardest things you can do in the world. And everybody says, you got to be consistent, you got to be doing, and everybody starts out with big ambitions. Hey, I'm going to do a podcast. Yeah. And then you do it and you're like, well, shit, it's harder than what you think.
Hell yeah, it is.
It really is. And you add a different dynamic of putting the video to it. And it's just like, wow. And I don't think people understand over the long haul. I mean, you're not doing this because you're getting rich. All right. You're not, you're doing it because you enjoy it. You might make 10, 15 grand a year. I don't know what you guys make, but it's
not even. Wait a second.
You don't?
We get free beer.
Oh. Travis, how much are you making on yours, man? You want to review it? You know what? You come on our podcast, you're open or you're fucking out.
No. I mean, that's the goal someday.
Yeah. Someday. I mean, I think people that go, oh my God, I see these YouTubers making all kinds. That's great, but they don't understand the number of downloads and the number of lists. But just to be consistent with it, and to make the phone calls to get somebody to come in. And you took a chance. Who's the one who wrote me on Twitter?
Jared.
I mean, I didn't know who the fuck you were, right?
I know who you are.
No, I know, but I mean, you always like, is this guy going to answer me? He doesn't know. I mean, I've never talked to him. This is a shot in the dark, right? Yeah. I think I got back to you pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm really quick.
Yeah. So I mean, but you never know what that's like and who's going to tell you no. And then you guys just sit there and go, you might look at it in 1 week, you get, hey, we got 5,000 downloads this week, or this week we got, oh, fuck, only 900 people listen to us, and is it worth doing it, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you guys are having fun and you're producing good content, that's all that really matters. But if you're listening to this, these guys I can just tell you work your ass off, and it's not easy to do. And I think anybody that creates content, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, takes a special person to do it all the time. And the fact that this is episode 37 for the year,
season 2.
Yeah. I mean, that's more than we do, man. It's way more than we do. But my co-host is a surgeon, is in surgery.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I went off on a tangent there about producing content, but take a bow because to do this takes a lot of work, and I'm impressed.
Yeah, we always say we started off with one mic.
Yeah,
passing it, like
we literally handing
passing it around in a basement, And now we're here, and it's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
we got a good setup.
we got a good setup.
Yeah, and I mean we appreciate that, right? And
I got to get you new mic stands though. These mic stands suck.
Yeah.
They fucking suck.
You get us whatever you want.
Yeah, and I mean to your point too. It's like we reach out to quite a few former players.
Do you
and
get told
people
no
in
a
the
lot
media.
or not?
Well,
They
it's
either say yes or they don't respond.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between.
Yeah.
The only person who's ever told me no
Oh God.
is Jamal Turner. He's the only person who responded to me and was
Yeah.
like, "No, thank you."
He doesn't do those things.
That's not his thing,
Right.
Which is fine.
But
I
as
respect
long as
that.
you say, "Hey, I don't do that," that's
Yeah.
cool.
I respect the shit out of it that he actually responded and was like, "Hey, man, it's not my thing." Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you don't respond, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna lose sleep.
Yeah.
But the ones that do respond, it's fucking awesome. We get to shoot
Yeah.
shit and drink beer. Who
And-
doesn't
and-
like to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky during a former life. I got to cover most of these guys. And the ones I probably have the best relationships were from the 94 up through about 97, 98 team. And I kept covering them, but I mean, that was just a special time to cover a team. It was great. And they're more closer to my age, right? When I started at Fox 42, I was a sports director at 23 years old.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. And I look back, I'm like, I was way in over my head. But I mean, so these guys were closer to me in age. I mean, Dr. Rob's only 2 years younger than me, and so it was just one of those things where, okay, I mean, you kind of, when you're that close in age, I don't have really thing in common with guys that were in the 2000s just because I was 10, 12 years older than them, and it just
Right.
you weren't going to hold or hang out socially. I got a story for you. Can I tell you? Because you're a big Peyton Manning fan. Can I
Oh
tell you a
yeah,
story?
absolutely.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into this.
So no, I because we were talking recruiting earlier. I think you guys would find this funny. It's not Nebraska related at all. My daughter. Okay, none of my kids are sports fans. My son is a little bit. I have 3 daughters and a son. And my son's a singer songwriter, so he's much more talented than I am. But my daughter is the director of marketing of student housing at Ole Miss.
Sweet.
And
Kiffinland.
yeah, so it's funny. She says the athletic department's always a pain in the ass, right? Because it's always like, hey, I need you here to show a dorm room so for a recruit. So my daughter's always on call to the athletic department, and so she gets a phone call and says, hey, you need to be at such and such hall at like 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Can you be there? Yeah. So she gets there, and the family's there, and the coaches aren't there yet. And so she's like, so
I already know this is going.
so my daughter went to school at Loyola New Orleans. And so she's like, hey, where are you from? She's like, New Orleans. She goes, oh, I went to Loyola. They're just sitting there kind of talking, All of a sudden Lane shows up. She's like, well, shit, Lane's never come on a visit, right? Never. It's always been an assistant coach or the director. And so Lane's there. She's like, what the hell's going on? So she's just sitting there going around. And then finally, she goes, well, I'm Abigail Justice. Thanks. Here's the room. Your name? He goes, well, I'm Arch Manning.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I saw that coming.
Yeah.
And so I know I didn't set it up very well, but she had no clue. No, because my daughter's not a sports fan. It's just not a sports. None of my and so I'm like, she called me right away. She goes, I just met Arch Manning. I'm like, wow. And you didn't know who he was? She's like, no. Now she has told me, and I haven't been down there yet. I said Texas A&M was the best place to watch a college football game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing more and more that the Grove at Ole Miss is the best place to tailgate.
Hotty toddy.
And so, yeah, and I'm actually, I don't know if I want to see a football game there as much as I want to see a college baseball game there. So have you ever seen the home runs that happen at Ole Miss?
Yep.
No.
So as soon as they hit a home run, it's a beer shower. They
Oh,
all throw
yeah,
beer.
okay, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like the fountains going off at Royal Kauffman Stadium,
Yeah.
Yep.
but it's just beer. It's a
yes.
different culture down in SEC land. It really is. Oxford's one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been in. Yeah, my daughter works at Ole Miss, and she met Arch Manning and had no clue who he was. Zero clue.
That's pretty cool.
But you know what? They liked her for that because she wasn't.
Fangirl.
She wasn't googly
Yeah,
eyed.
she didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, do you want to see a dorm or not?
Yeah.
Anytime you see that last name Manning, you got to be like, kind of mind your P's and Q's. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's better than what other people would do. I mean,
Yeah.
what if Mike saw the last name Manning? Like, you need a new pair of pants.
He'd be all googly eyed and yeah.
I'm fine.
Why do you
guys.
like Peyton Manning so much? I'm just curious.
Okay.
What's going on here?
Okay, this is actually a fun story. Okay, so the reason I'm a Peyton Manning fan, my dad, this is going to go back to your relationships in the 90s, right?
Okay.
So my dad had VHSs of all the 90s national championship
Okay.
games, right? And my favorite one when I was a kid was watching Peyton Manning get his ass kicked by Nebraska.
Okay. I was there.
So when I'm a kid, I'm sitting here playing Madden and shit. I'm like, oh, Peyton Manning. I remember that guy. Oh, I felt really bad for him because Nebraska kicked his ass. That's the only reason I'm a Peyton Manning fan. I've been a Peyton Manning fan since I was 5 years old. And that's the only reason is I felt bad that Nebraska kicked his ass.
Out of pity.
Yeah. And he's literally been my favorite player since I was 5 years old. And I mean,
but he would die for that man.
Hey,
does Peyton know that you would literally die for him?
Can't say. Can't say. Are you talking about Peyton, my daughter, or Peyton Manning?
It's a beautiful transition, Mike.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh man.
Yeah.
And how old is Peyton? 3 weeks? 2 weeks?
2 weeks old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yes.
First
Girl
one?
dad.
First one.
Wow.
Yes.
What's he in for?
For what?
Well, he's a girl dad, right? So
Well, it depends.
You're a girl dad.
My girls went to Duchesne Academy in Marion, so we're about $300,000 in right there. So
Oh,
That ain't happening.
Let's say
My
you
kids
get-
they're going to Millard West. Millard West.
that podcast money.
There ain't no podcast money.
my son went to prep, so it's I didn't start saving for retire. I still have it. My youngest could be a sophomore at Marion, so I don't get saved for retirement until I'm like 55.
That's
so,
why he does podcasts. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So, but no, I tell you, honest to God, I have 3 girls. The girls were much easier than the boy. My son was the most difficult one because he was probably the most like me. He loves to challenge me. He's way smarter than I am, and it's not even close how much smarter than he is. And my girls are smarter than me too, but my son, they don't challenge me like my son. And but you're going to be great. My only advice to you would be don't stop at 1, don't stop at 2. You have 3 or 4 because I'm going to tell you right now, it goes fast. And if you only have 1 or 2, you'll regret it. You will. My wife, we have 4, and my wife says we should have had 3 more.
Wow.
And everybody's like, it costs too much money, and I'm like, well, it really doesn't because you can't take money with you, and kids are the joy of your life. And I'm being dead serious. I have as many kids as you possibly can because they're awesome.
Sarah,
I'll have to convince my wife to do that.
Kids are awesome. I'm just telling you, kids are awesome.
It's been pretty rewarding already.
How old a guy are you?
I'm 28. So.
Okay, well, we started when we were about 25. So, I mean, you got I spread mine out a little bit more, so it was you should be good to go.
Okay.
You can get 4 in.
you're fertile.
You can get 4 in. You're not shooting blanks. You're not shooting blanks.
The first time they tried, I'm sure, is the first time it happened.
Wow.
Wait, relax.
Okay, let's get off this whole thing.
Yeah, this is the only time we've ever talked about Mike's penis, and the last time we talked about Mike's
I didn't
penis.
talk about your penis.
You're never mind.
I talked about your spooge.
Oh,
Okay,
That's
let's get
another
off this.
first.
Please try
Yeah.
this. Please shut
if
up.
my family that's
Please shut
listening.
People would be like, never have
Mike's-
that guy on again. Never, ever have
Mike's
that guy on
mom and
again.
dad are just what?
Your cousin's gonna listen to this.
It was funny. Kim wrote me because I don't know if she told you the family dynamics. But we don't really talk that often because we're a dysfunctional family. So I see Kim like twice. I only see Kim maybe once a year. Maybe talk to her, text her, just because none of the justice side of the family likes each other. So, but Kim and I like each other. So that's the nice part. But yeah, she asked me if I was going to be on. She's like, "Oh, it's her husband's cousin. Is that what it is?"
No,
Or-
that's my uncle.
Your
So
uncle?
She's,
Okay.
she's my aunt. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're related by marriage. So nice to meet you.
It's
great.
Nice to meet you.
I reach out.
It's
to
amazing
you,
how
and
that works
You're
out,
related
isn't
to him. And okay, so let's just close this out.
Yeah. Let's wrap.
You're
up.
kicking me off, which is fine. I got to go get dinner.
Hey,
we're
hey,
landing the
we're
plane.
Landing the plane. You're like, I didn't say a fucking word. This guy came on and just totally stole our podcast.
I don't give a fuck.
That's why we brought you on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Nebraska against Iowa.
Okay.
Nebraska leads the all-time series.
Yes, it does.
25, 16,
Whatever.
and 1.
Okay.
Woo! But you've won 7 straight. And I say you because you're an
Because I'm the
fan.
Iowa fan.
Yep.
Is this the year Nebraska changes that around?
This sounds. It's. I don't give the answer because this is the analytical part of I don't know what does the turnover situation look like, what does the penalty situation look like, I will say that losing Charlie Jones is a big deal. One thing I always hated when Tom Osborne would come into a Tuesday afternoon press conference, and here I am 22 23 years old, and I did this all the way through 97. The first thing he talked about was special teams. And I'm like, what do you do? Nobody cares. Why? Because you don't care about that part of the game, right? I mean, you're like, whatever, it's a kicker. But now you understand the importance of flipping the field. You understand the difference between starting on the 15-yard line compared to the 40-yard line. Mm-hmm. And when you lose a guy like Charlie Jones that Iowa did, and everybody's like, well, next in line. Well, it doesn't happen that way. A return specialist, you got to have a screw loose, man. You're just not right there mentally, right? You're willing to sacrifice your body in ways that is unimaginable, and it takes a special amount of instinct. So I think that's a huge loss. I think I was going to be consistent. Iowa has had really good recruiting classes over the years. Offensively, if they can get a quarterback. Because Spencer Peters, if Alex Padilla turns out to be better, and we can get to Clester Johnson's kids, I think Iowa will be fine. I think it's one of those games. It's going to be close because they have been close over the last. Well, not everyone, but they've been close.
Yep,
they've been manageable. But it's going to be in Iowa City, so go Hawks.
There you go. You heard it.
You heard it here.
I was just going to say something, and it had to do with this game, but I totally had a brain fart, so I apologize. Hey, guys, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you taking the time out.
If you ever get desperate and you need somebody to come up again, I'll be more than happy to come
Let's have you come on for an Iowa preview. How about that?
I can do that.
Yeah, that way we'll know the injury situation. We'll know everything that's going on.
Yeah, and doing what I do in the state of Iowa, we can have a little bit of fun with that. So yeah,
absolutely.
We'll set it because after that game, if they don't make the Big Ten title game, I'm off to Italy for a week, or 2 weeks. So.
Tuscany?
That's another podcast I run. I run a travel podcast.
Well, okay, so just real quick, if you want to plug yourself, anything that you want to get out there.
Oh, sure. So if you don't listen to the Doc Talk podcast, you can find it on all the wonderful podcast episodes. Just look for Doc Talk and search Dr. Rob Zadiska. That'll come up. And if you want to travel to Tuscany, I do run a travel podcast called Total Tuscany and a website called TotalTuscany.com. I plan trips for people to Italy. I've been going to Italy every year since 2009. I have a network of people over there that I use on a regular basis that are friends of mine. If you want a wine tour, if you want a meal, if you want a villa, if you want a private tour of Florence, I can take care of you. And I can help you plan that and really put you in some first-class accommodations without paying first-class prices. So, TotalTuscany.com if you want to check that out.
Michael.
My mom's 100% Italian, so it's like, you're speaking to me, but I can't travel anywhere with a two-week-old. So.
And I can show you the ways to travel cheap. So, my wife and I, I could go on a long thing, but and I have no problem discussing prices. So we're going to go December 5th through the 14th. It's 8 nights, breakfast every day, hotel, flight, everything all included is $1,000 a person.
Damn!
So you can go.
Hey, I'm going to be hitting you up for that.
I'm telling you, you can go to Europe a lot cheaper. You can go to Florida. I'm just letting The only bad thing about Europe that sucks, and the older I get, I'm really starting to feel it's the 8-hour flight. The flight really starts to grate on you the older you get. But never think that Europe's out of reach because it's very, very attainable and very, very inexpensive if you do it right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be hitting you up for that.
All right. We can do that. We can make that.
All right. Travis Justice.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.